Hi guys, Samantha from Jessama Tutorials here, and today I'm going to show you how to create a bead using silk screening. So first what we want to do before we get onto the silk screening is I want to create a base sheet, and so you're going to need pearl white Primo and black Primo. Now you don't have to use Primo, any brand of clay that has metallic pearl white and black will work. And these will both run out on the thickest setting. Now I'm going to take my ruler and I'm going to just trim this into a straight line. And I want two of these, but different thickness. I want them to have a different thickness each time round. Okay. Oops. So that's the mathematical bit. And so I'm going to pick those up and out of the way and place them off to the side for the moment. And I'll bring over my white. And I'm going to use the ruler again to just make a nice straight cut. Just like that. And then I'll move that pearl white out the way. And let me just brighten this up for you. There you go. And I'm going to bring over the thinnest version of the black. And I'm gonna pop that up against there, and I'm just gonna use the ruler to just gently nudge it. And then I'll take the white piece and I'll pop that right up against it, so now we have a nice straight line. And then I want to do one up here. Again, got to use the ruler to make sure that we use a nice straight line. There we go. Then I'll move that out the way and bring over our thicker piece. And just pop that down there. And then I'm just going to use the ruler to bump it up against the edge there. And we'll bring the white back over and pop that there. Okay, now we want to burnish those so that we get the sheet nice and flat. So I'm just going to use this piece of plastic and smooth down from one end. And I don't want to trap air bubbles, so I'm just smoothing out air bubbles. Okay, then I'm going to bring my acrylic roller, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to burnish. I don't want to be rolling. I want to be burnishing. And what this is going to do is it's going to smooth out that black and the white so that we don't have a seam, which is something that we really don't want. So I'm just busy smoothing that out. And now you might need to lift it up and place it back down again so that you avoid air bubbles. Sometimes you can trap air bubbles, so I sometimes need to relay it and then continue to smooth it out. And the goal is to get rid of all the seams and things like that. And keep these lines nice and straight. And I might use my finger to just go in there and smooth. And I'm using Teflon because, not Teflon, plastic, because I find that it's easier than trying to do it on top of the cane, on top of the clay. Okay, so now we'll check. And that's fairly smoothed out. I want to carry on doing it for a little while longer, and so I'll come back when it's all nice. Okay, so that's about as smooth as I'm going to get it. So now I'm just going to trim up these black ends. those out of the way. And we of course don't need to silk screen the entire sheet, so I'm not going to waste a bunch of pearl white. So I'm just going to trim up this section up here, and I also want to get rid of this section down here. Okay, and I'm just going to trim up these edges, get that out of the way, and now we're ready to go. And the silk screen that I'm going to be using today is from createalong.com, and it's the really cool rose pattern. So we're going to go with a somewhat romantic theme today, I guess. So I'm going to unpack that. Okay, so here is the silk screen, and it is this lovely rose effect, and it is from createalong.com, and this is what we're going to be using today. So I want to lay it orange side down onto the clay, and then gently smooth it on. I'm not rubbing, I'm not pushing very hard, I'm just gently burnishing it on so that it's properly stuck. Okay, and then I'm going to be using some paints. So I'm going to be using Martha Stewart's paints, and let me see, this one is Hollyberry, another Martha Stewart one, and this one is Fruit Punch. And I'm also going to be using this Dazzling Metallics Berry. So I want to create a skinner blend with these colours, so I'm going to start with the Hollyberry. And you need to give them a good shake before you use them. And I want to put a bit of a coat there. Then I'll take the Fruit Punch and I'll pop that a little way down. And then I'll take the berry and put that a little way down. Okay. And then I'm just going to dab this over the surface over here to get right up against it. And then I'm going to bring it over my squeegee. And I'm going to brush it along the surface. And then I'm going to wipe that off. And I'm going to brush over again just to remove excess paint, because I don't want any excess. So I'm just going to make sure that I get rid of that. Okay, and I'm going to brush this way just to make sure that it's nice and clean and even. Okay, and I'm going to lift this up, and you can see the edges are always a little bit messy, but the inside's nice. Now I'm going to go clean this up immediately. And so the silk screen has been rinsed off under water, and it is now it's now dry and all cleaned up. So you want to do that before you continue with your project. Now I want to trim up these ends that are a little bit messy. And you're always going to have that because the silk screen doesn't completely bond to the ends of the clay. And I'll provide a link to where you can buy the silk screen as well. And so I really like how this looks. Now you want to let this dry, and it will probably take around 10 to 20 minutes to dry, so just make sure that it is fully dry before you continue with your project. So I'm going to lift this off of my tile. I just want to show you how that looks. It looks really nice, and I love how it covers the black as well. So I'll put that off to the side, and I'll show you what to do next when it is dry. So while that is drying, I want to start working on the back of our piece. So I have a sheet of black Polymer clay over here, and I have this texture from Helen Braille, and this is her Congo line stamp. And I got this from Linda's Art Spot, and I'll provide a link to where you can buy that as well. And I'm just going to give it a light spray of water. If your clay doesn't like water for some reason, just use a dab of cornstarch. Now I'll lay my stamp in there and give the surface of the stamp a light spray so it doesn't stick to my fingers, and then gently press it into the stamp, and this will give our back a little bit of interest. And I'm making a fairly large sheet so that we can pop it on the back of our entire piece of clay. And so once that is stamped in, I want to bring over a sponge texture, and this I got off of Towards Polymer clay, and I want to use that to texture the front over here. And I'm just going to roll over the surface to get that texture started, and then I'll press it in to get a really nice texture, because we're going to be able to see this, and I'll show you why in a minute. So just make sure that you get that texture in nice and deep. And I'm doing this while my black is still in the texture over here, so that I don't ruin the back texture. And so once that's finished, I'll lift that out of the texture and put that to the side for the moment, and just wipe away your work surface and bring over your sheet, which has dried by now. So I'll bring that over so you can see. Okay, and I'll lay that down, and then I'm going to bring over the cutters that we are going to use today. And these cutters you can get on my Etsy store, Jessama Design, and I'll provide a link to those. And I want to cut out a piece, but I want to get all of the colours if possible. So I'm just choosing a nice spot. I think I want to go here. Okay, and I'll pop that off to the side. And now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to wipe that surface carefully. And I wanted the lines to go in this direction, it makes it more interesting. And then I'm going to bring over some of these circle cutters, which are really nice, and I got these off of Happy Things, and I'll also provide a link to where you can get those. And I'm just going to use them to cut out some holes. And these holes are meant for decoration only, so I'm not trying to get them symmetrical or anything like that, in case you're wondering, because we're actually going to attach a bail to this. And I'm sorry about the noise in the background. And I kind of want the circles going in the direction of these lines, and then I'm just gently going to lift that up and remove those, and there we are. Then we'll bring over our texture that we had and decide where I want it. So I want it going like this across, and then I'll gently tap that down onto the surface, and so you can see the black shows through nicely. And then I'm going to cut out my bead using my cutter again. And press down nice and hard. And there you can see the back now has texture. I'm just going to press that out of the stamp. cutter. And now my tile's a little wet, so I'm just gonna wipe that away and then retrim with my cutter now that the bead can stick to the surface of the clay. Because I want it to be nice and neat. Okay, then I'll bring over my tissue blade and just trim away any straggly bits. Because you just want to make sure that your bead's perfect before you pop it in the oven. And we're going to pop resin on this later as well, in case you're wondering. Oops, sorry, my head got in the way there. Now just fixing up the sides, getting rid of any straggly bits that might be there and things like that. Because I don't want to be able to see that black when I look at the bead from the top. So I'm just pushing it in. So now I'm going to look at it with my head around about here, and if I can see any areas where the black's still showing, I'll trim that away. There's a little bit on this side as well. There we go. I'm just making sure that it is perfect. Okay. Then check the back, make sure that you're happy with it, check the sides, and the front's quite nice as well. And this will go in the oven at Primo's recommended temperature for a full hour, and then when we come back I can show you how to clean up the sides and everything else. And actually, before we do anything, I want to attach a bail. Nearly forgot to do that. We'll take our Congo line texture that's over here, and we'll actually cut a bail from it. Sorry, I nearly forgot to show you guys how to do a bail, because we actually want to attach that while the back is raw. So there, cut out a section over there, and then I'll bring over a skewer and I'm going to wrap the clay around the skewer. Just use the skewer as a guideline, and then I'm just going to mark over there. Let me just bring this over so you can see it. I'm just going to mark over there where I need to trim. To get it to meet up nicely. I'm just using the skewer, and I'm actually going to remove that. So we end up with a bail like that. Then I'm just going to pinch in those sides, bring over our bead, and because this is raw, it will stick. I want to position it in the right spot. Okay, and then I'm gently going to push that down onto the clay. Because I don't want a massive bail on the back. And then I'm just going to gently pinch these sides. Tidy it up, make sure that it's all nice. And then check that it's hanging right. Okay, and the best way to check, whoops, if it hangs right is to bring over a piercing pin once you've stuck it on. And then slide that through the bail and then have a look at the front. Okay, so that's good. And I'll go pop that in the oven for a full hour. Okay, so here it is out of the oven. And so now we are ready to do the sides. So you'll bring over another bit of black, and this is Primo. And you'll just roll it in your hands to warm it up. And you'll roll it into a log. Like that. I'm going to start on this end, and you'll press the log up against the edge of the clay, the bead, and smear along the sides. Just like that. And then gently brush off that excess clay, those straggly bits that you don't want. And then smooth along the edges so that you get that. So you can see that that side's much neater than that side. And then you'll collect your bits of clay. It's a bit of a messy process. Roll that back into a log. Pop that where you left off and smear as far as you can. That's it, stop there. Sometimes it doesn't want to stick to the bead. But just try and try again. There we go. And you have to use a lot of pressure. I'm really pushing against the bead to get it to stick. So don't be afraid to push hard. If you've baked your bead right, it will withstand the pressure quite happily. And there we are. Just finish up this last edge. And press those pieces together. And then just wipe my hand off so that I don't have clay sticking to it. And then gently smooth out that seam, because I don't want that visible. We want it to be pure black around the edges. Okay, and I just go with my finger to smooth out seams, and then I'll go with my palm and get rid of fingerprints. Okay, so I'm happy with that, and then use my palm to really smooth it out and make it nice and shiny, which saves sanding later on. And then you'll pop this in the oven for half an hour just to make sure that it's properly baked. And then I can show you how to sand the back and the sides, and then we can pop Renaissance wax on, and then we can resin it. Okay, so it is out of the oven, and so you can see that this edge has made it look much better, and it's given it a little bit of a border as well, which is quite nice. And so now we want to move on to sanding. So I'll bring over my polishing papers, and this is a 400 grit, and we're going to sand the edge and the back, not the front. And you're just going to start with a 400, give everything a sand, then work your way up through the grits until you reach your highest grit. My highest is an 8000, which gives me a nice shine, which is quite nice. And then we can pop some Renaissance wax onto the back and side so that it gives it an even better shine, and it will also help repel the resin from sticking to the back, which is an added bonus. And then I can show you how to do the resin, which will be nice and easy. Okay, so now that it's sanded, you can see that it's got a little bit of a shine to it. Trying to get the camera to pick that up. There we go. And so now I'm going to bring over the Renaissance wax. And I'll open that up and bring over that polishing paper that I've got on the side here. Just grab a little bit and rub that onto the surface. And this will give it a little bit more of a shine. It also deepens up those colours. And I also want to do the sides. Be careful to avoid touching the front of your bead because the Renaissance wax helps keep the resin from sticking to that surface. So it's great if you get on the back and the sides, but not so good if you get on the front. So just be careful about that. Okay, and then you will let that sit for about 10 minutes to dry, and then I can show you how to apply the resin. Okay, so I've let the Renaissance wax cure, and I gave it a buff on my Dremel so you can see that it's nice and shiny, and the back's also lovely and shiny, so it looks great. So now we are ready to do the resin. So I'll pop that off to the side and I'll bring over the resin. And I'm going to be using an ice resin plunger today because I only need enough resin for one bead. And I got this off of Linda's Art Spot, and I'll provide a link to where you can buy that. And so I'm just going to pop open this valve, pop it down over here and wait for that resin to float up. And then we'll press with even pressure. And I'm just making sure that I'm pouring enough. And then just let that drop and then suck back in so that you get all of that resin back in. Okay. And then you'll pop the valve back on and screw. And then I'll bring over a skewer, which is my chosen tool for mixing, and I'll just mix this resin in. And there's a very small amount here, we don't need much, which is the nice thing about the plunger. You don't have to wait forever to build up enough beads to make enough resin to go with them, because the minimum amount of resin I can mix is 5 mils, and generally that covers at least 10 beads. So I have to usually mix a big batch, which is what's nice about the plunger. You can mix a very small amount. And the other nice thing about the plunger is it means that you don't have any risk involved, because it measures out the resin perfectly for you. The only risk involved really is that you didn't mix that resin properly, and that part on its own isn't too hard. Just sit there and mix for about 5 minutes to make sure that your resin's all well mixed together. And in winter you can actually mix for a longer amount of time, because you'll have about 45 minutes of working time with this. So in summer you have about 20, depending on how hot it is. So just take your time to mix it properly, and then let that rest for a little while, maybe about a minute, so that those bubbles float to the surface, and then you can pop them, and then you can add them to your bead. So I'll continue mixing this until I'm happy that it is fully mixed, and then I will show you how to apply it to the bead. So now that our resin is mixed, you want to get a silicone mat to pop your bead on. And now, because our bead has a bail on it, it can't sit in the middle of the mat, because otherwise it's not going to sit flat. And even these holes won't really contain the bail. So I'm going to just hang it off of the edge like that, and then it will sit nice and flat. And then I'll bring over the resin, which has been sitting for a little while. And I'm going to use this somewhat of a straw, I guess, to blow the bubbles. So let me see if I can show you that. So hopefully you can see all of those popping. So now that I've got most of the bubbles, I'm going to take a little bit of this, and I'm going to actually drip it directly into these holes first, because they are an air bubble problem. So fill those up first so that you avoid issues with air bubbles. just because air can get trapped in them. Yeah. Okay. And then I'll start pouring the resin over. And all of these air bubbles that are still in there will float to the surface and we can pop them. And so just pop on a little bit at a time and then spread it over the surface. It's better to start with a little bit and work it over the surface and then add enough for a dome rather than add too much and then you end up with spills. So you probably have just enough resin for this. So add a bit down that end. Make sure that it's at all ends. Okay, and then I'll pop that off to the side. And I'm actually going to just wipe off this end over here. And I'm going to use the pointy end here to work out this air bubble that's down there. There we go. And now I'm going to bring over that straw again and I'm going to pop some of the bubbles. Oh, got a drip. Let me just fix that quickly. And this is why we put the Renaissance wax on first, because even if we do get drips, it will be easy to get rid of them later on. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to bring over a wet wipe to try and clean this up so that we get rid of the drips. There we are. Just wiping that out the way. And because you're cleaning off the resin, it means that it's less likely to drip over the sides again. Because you're removing the resin, and so it's like having a dry surface versus a wet surface. It's less likely to flow on a dry surface. Okay, and so I'll just clean that up. And so I'll just be here a little while, maybe about 10 minutes, tending to this, making sure that there's no drips and blowing away air bubbles. So there we are, and then I'll go back to cleaning up drips. And so once I'm happy with it, you will let it sit for about 24 hours for the resin to cure, and then we can move on to the next step in our project. Okay, so our piece is now cured, and so you can see it's a nice dome of resin and the back's all nice and clean too. So now we're ready to start stringing. So I decided that it would look nice on a piece of kamihima, and I've already shown how to do this on Patreon, so I'll provide a link to where you can have a look at that tutorial. But I have also done it. Excuse me. There are a whole bunch of other tutorials online that you can use as well. So just want to undo a little bit of this so that we have a little bit more cord to work with. Okay, and then I want to tie a knot on the end, and this is just black bugtail. So let me just get that knot in over there. There we are. Now just tighten that up, and so now we're ready to start finishing that end. So I'm going to bring over some Nimo thread, So this is quite strong, which is what we want. So I'm just going to unwind a bit. And I'll snip that off. There we go. And what we're going to do is we're going to come over to the base and wrap our nouveau thread around it. And then start wrapping. And we want to do it as tight as we can, because we don't want this unraveling later on when we snip it off. So go as tight as you can. Sorry, I have a bit of trouble showing this on camera because it's kind of something where you're going all over the place trying to wrap this around. There we go. So I'll just continue wrapping. And so once you've wrapped it to your liking, you just want to tie it off. And this thread's very thin, so it's quite fiddly. There we are. Tie it. And then do another knot, and you really want to make this secure. And what I'm doing on this end, you'll do on the other end as well. Okay, so we tie it on that end. Want to do it on this end as well. Just to make sure that that's secure. Okay, and then I'm just going to trim this off. There we go. Okay, so now that's like that, we are going to cut the button knot, or not the button knot, just the knot up here. Like that. And then I'm going to bring over my end cap, which is going to go on here, and we need to bulk this up a little bit so the end cap fits better. So I'm going to bring over that knot and untie it, and then use this leftover bug tail to tie a little bit more thread onto here so that we can make this end a bit bigger, which makes for a better foothold for our bead cap to go on. Just trying to tie that into another knot. Just like that. And then I'm going to bring over that piece of nouveau that I just cut off, because I want to tie these threads up here so that they're out of the way. And I will just wrap like before. Okay, and then tie those threads off again, like that, and just snip off the excess, like that. Okay, and then I'll bring over the bead cap, and it fits much better now. It's going to sit in there nicely. Okay, so just want to snip off a little bit more of this head over here so that it fits better. There we go. There we go. Okay, so now we're ready to apply the bead cap. And so what I'm going to use is E6000 for this. And so we'll just open that up, and you want to always, clear away the gunk from last time, and clear away the inside over here so that the fresh glue can come out. And do this in a ventilated area. Okay, and we'll squeeze that glue out. And there we are. you want to squeeze out quite a bit. And coat the inside of your bead cap, because this is what's going to hold the two together, so don't be skimpy on the glue. Okay, I'll coat the inside of that again, and then we want to put some on the cord as well. And I like to add it to the top of the cord. I don't like adding it near the bottom because otherwise I get some glue squishing out the bottom and that's just unpleasant. Okay, we'll smoosh that on. And if you do have some glue over there, just gently wipe it away and smoosh that cord into there and just wipe away the excess glue. And then what you're going to do is you will leave that for 24 hours before you wear the necklace. So I'll put that off to the side. We'll go down this end, and we've got another knot down this end as well. So untie that. And I just wanted to untie it enough so that I can thread the bead through. So we'll just thread that knot through the bail, like that. And we'll go pop that up there out of the way. And I'll repeat on this side what I did on the other side. Okay, so now I've got both of these cord ends done. We're going to take a jump ring and open it up, thread it through, take our clasp, pop that onto the jump ring, close the jump ring, and repeat on the other side. And that will be our project. Quite a bit of fun. You just grab my round nose pliers to help me with this. There. Okay, so that's about it. Just pop those there, and there's the bead. So, quite happy with how that turned out, and so I do hope that this tutorial was helpful to you, and if it was, please do let me know, as that is always helpful to me, and please do send in photos of what you do using this project, as I always love to see those, and as always, I'll see you in the next tutorial. Bye for now!